In the Kremlin, Trump euphoria has reached such a level that the US president was even invited to the victory parade on May 9 in Moscow. Putin is confident that together with Trump they will break Zelensky like a singing birch. But first, the negotiators, or rather the conspirators, need to meet next week in Saudi Arabia and clarify delicate issues, and then begin bilateral pressure on Ukraine. Zelensky does not support the financial agreement handed over by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, which stipulates U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth metals. The final answer will be given in Munich during a meeting with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Trump was polite to the bald man on the phone and, moved by emotion, released the Kremlin's most valuable crypto baron Vinnik, whom U.S. intelligence had been hunting for several years. The Kremlin appreciated this and began to fantasize about a multipolar world. According to the racist ideologist Dugin, there should be 4 poles on this planet: the USA, Russia, India, and China. These superpowers should be given the right to build their orbit in the world. In this case, Europe considers Moscow to have an unfairly divided piece of the geopolitical pie. Putin wants to return to the orbit of the cave world not only of Ukraine, but of all of Eastern Europe, as it was during the Soviet era. He is considering the possibility of Russia's return to the territory of the current Baltic states, and the resubordination of Poland, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Bulgaria, Hungary, Great Britain, Moldova, and other countries. And in this regard, Putin is counting on the understanding and help of Trump, who has already begun to pursue his neo-colonialist revisionist policy, having announced a proposal to buy Greenland and the gas sector, as well as to annex Canada. Trump is already smashing U.S. institutions, destroying the USAID agency and promoting Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard to the post of Director of National Intelligence. Gabbard has never tired of repeating Kremlin propaganda narratives, and many believe she is unsuited to the role, both because of her intelligence background and her history of controversial statements. But the deed is done. And now Vinnik has been released, along with $8 billion in crypto and simplified formulas about the Kremlin stashes scattered around the planet. There is no doubt that Gabbard's appointment and the dismantling of the U.S. intelligence ranks, coupled with recent negative actions, will impact the level of trust and intelligence sharing between the U.S. and its allies. Meanwhile, Trump continues to burn, pushing anti-vaxxer Kennedy into the health minister's chair and offering to return Russia to the G7. The Kremlin is already predicting a deal with Trump either by Easter or by May 9. The revanchists are not taking the European Union into account as an object for a quick redistribution of spheres of influence. Meanwhile, the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, announced her readiness to support Kiev's position. Europe and Ukraine are necessary for the implementation of the peace agreement. You can agree on anything without our presence, but it will all fail due to the lack of implementation, Kallas said. On February 14, during the Munich Security Conference, Trump announced a meeting of his officials with Ukrainian officials as part of efforts to end the war. However, such a meeting is not mentioned in the conference program. Former Swedish Prime Minister and co-chair of the European Council on Foreign Relations Carl Bildt is shocked by Trump's actions. This is, of course, an innovative approach to negotiations, to make very big concessions before they even start. Even Chamberlain did not stoop so low in 1938. That Munich ended very badly anyway, Bildt wrote on the social network X. Olaf Scholz called for a state of emergency in Germany to increase aid to Ukraine against the backdrop of the upcoming deal between Putin and Trump, which requires a clear, fast, and decisive positioning of Europe. Meanwhile, US Vice President Vance joined the clown show, threatening Putin with sending American troops to Ukraine if he disrupts the peace talks. According to Vance, the Trump administration will seek to convince Putin that Russia will achieve more at the negotiating table than on the battlefield. He noted that in the event of a successful agreement on Ukraine, the United States could reset relations with Russia, since Moscow's current isolation from Western countries makes it a raw materials appendage of China. Vance's strange concern about the status of the cave gives reason to believe that Putlo first-ears have come to power in Washington, worse than Schroeder and Berlusconi. We have data that Trump is an agent recruited by the KGB of the USSR back in 1978, and his first wife Ivana Trump worked for Czechoslovakian intelligence. By the way, the British The Guardian wrote about this back in 2018. And if we take this version as a basis, then all of Trump's shocking actions fit into a coherent framework and find a logical explanation. Kremlin agent Trump is simply destabilizing the US system from within, setting it at odds with its neighbors, weakening NATO and, together with Putin, shaking the European Union. Just put all his actions together in one chain and include cause and effect relationships. We don't take into account the emotional. This just can't be. In this sinful world, everything happens for the first time.